Welcome back to the Visit Vallejo Podcast. This time, in celebration of California Craft Beer Week, we're going to be visiting some more of our amazing local businesses to find out where to get the best brews in town. Make sure to head on over to the California Craft Beer Week website for exciting virtual events and tastings near you. Cheers!
So I am Noelle Roldan. I'm the hospitality manager at Napa Smith Brewery. We actually started in Napa, so I'm actually born and raised in Napa, and I just happened to drive by and see a hiring sign. Started as a bartender, slowly worked my way up. So I've been with the company going on 7 years now. It's been a lot of fun. We have transitioned a lot, especially in the last 4 years. So we started at the corner of 29 and 12 in Napa. Had a beautiful location there. Unfortunately, the setup for production was a little bit wonky. So there were all these different rooms because it was originally a sake factory. And so brewing or distilling or however, I don't know, I'm not a sake person, but sake is set up a lot differently. There's multiple rooms for all the different equipment. With brewing, obviously, it doesn't make sense because you're brewing throughout the day. So the brewers in the past would go from one room to another room to another room, and they're taking hoses and they're weaving in and out of all these different hallways. And it was a little bit unnecessary. And so when we started to grow, we thought to ourselves, well, we need to get a bigger production facility and a more open production facility. So we were in the market, and it just so happened, that Vallejo was on the up and up and was starting to open up a lot of these old locations. And we kind of fell in love with the architecture, the demographic, everything about Vallejo. It really represents our brand, especially in the production side. So we ended up finding this building. This was the old Sears building, and it was abandoned. And it had just been sitting empty for a very, very long time. And so they got in contact with the owner, Dennis Brinson, made a deal with him, came up with all these different ways to, spruce up the place. We ended up laying I think it was 18 inches of concrete in the production floor so that it could withhold all the weight. Broke down anything that was old and rotten, rebuilt it. And it just so happened that we're sitting in the appliance center. Huh. So this is where people would come and, buy microwaves or whatever they needed. And then the back was the warehouse. So it kind of just worked out that it already had this storefront and it was empty. So we were able to gut it all the way down to the bones and just go. And so when we moved in here, I would literally skateboard in here. I would just cruise around. It was just this empty space. Other than the walls and the posts you see there was nothing here. So I ended up making the move. It was about a year transition of building. So in the meantime, it was just a whole lot of buying furniture, coming up with design, figuring out what we were going to use. There's a lot of odes to Vallejo and Napa because we truly believe, that you can represent these two cities. It's a little bit of the past, a little bit of the future. So for example, the bar is made with recovered wood from Mare Island, one of the buildings in Mare Island. They were tearing it down, and we walked over there and we were like, oh my God, this is amazing oak. Let's use it. So we tore that down. We brought it over here. It was this huge pile, sanded it all up, put it together. And then the wine staves are from barrels from Napa Valley. And so we laid those on the front. And ever since then, we've just been rocking. So it's been a lot of fun. We continue to improve and make changes as we see fit, and trying to come up with ways to stay relevant, especially during COVID. It's a little bit tough, but I think we're starting to see the light, which is nice.
Yeah, sweet. So did you get your start from Napa Smith as a bartender? Was that your first job in the food beverage industry?
No.
Or? Okay,
yeah. So I'm born and raised in Napa. My first job, I was 14 and I was working at Locos Tex-Mex. It's behind the Opera House. So that was my very first job in the restaurant industry. I was a little busser. And the owners, the greatest people I've ever known, they taught me almost everything I knew. And then I actually hopped over to Felipe's Pizza Grotto, still standing right across the street from Oxbow Market. So I worked there for a couple years, made great friends, had, amazing managers. Tom Finch was also somebody that taught me a whole lot. Like sometimes I think when I'm behind the bar and I'm cleaning things and I'm bleaching the wall, I have flashbacks to when I was 16 doing the same thing at the Pizza Grotto. And then, I ended up working at Chardonnay Golf Course, which a little bit more fine dining. And also we did a lot of events, especially weddings, big birthdays. And so I would bartend like in the satellite bar in the tent, and the tent could hold up to like 400 people.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'd done a lot in the beverage and food industry for sure. Napa Smith Brewery is actually right on the corner of Jameson Canyon, or originally was. And I would drive past there to get home from Chardonnay Golf Course. So that was just how I figured out, like, oh, they need a bartender.
Yeah.
So I actually picked that up as a just supplemental income. And now I'm like living here. So it's great.
Awesome. And do you get to, have you learned about the brewing process at all since you've been here? Yeah.
Yeah. So I actually give the tours.
Okay.
The brewers, they teach us as much as they possibly can. So we started the beginning, the original Napa Smith Brewery was Don Barkley. He's considered, one of the grandfathers of craft brewing, and learned at the New Albion Brewing Company, which was the first brewery to open up in California after Prohibition.
Oh. And
he has a super cool story. And he ended up retiring, and they brought in Stein Cervik. And Stein had this real scientific way about him. So Don is like traditional brewing. It's all about feel, art, creativity, just figuring out what works. A lot of hands-on tasting the grain and all that. Stein takes a very scientific approach, and he has a genetic physicist background. Yeah, so Stein came in, and for a second they were both working together, and we had this really traditional take and this really scientific new school. And I always like to say that it's like this really beautiful blend of old school and new school, which I really appreciate, because I feel like it's honoring our roots, but it's also looking forward, and staying relevant in the market, especially with beer. It's become so saturated. There's so many different options. So customer loyalty is really hard to maintain, because when you walk into these really great liquor stores and they have now, 40 of the same style of beer, and you're trying to basically make them make a decision off the cover and the can label, and just getting them to try it, because once they try it, right, they'll fall in love because you're confident in your product. But all these different types of pieces coming together. And so if you look at our beer list, we have like the Pilsner, the Redwood Amber Ale, the Bonfire Imperial Port, and even the Hopageddon. These are very malty, very old school traditional beers. And we've made some tweaks probably within the last couple of years to maintain and keep them relevant. But, now it's the hazy IPAs, it's the sours, it's especially like these flavorful lagers. People are looking for out of the box kind of creative things. So it's nice to have our flagship beers that are here all the time, that maintain consistency, and it's an ode to our roots, but then having Stein at the helm with the scientific knowledge, and also with the knowledge of the beer market currently, making new beers like the hazy IPA, and especially, the Mosaic of Galaxies, the double IPA. So that's made with Galaxy hops, and it's like one of the hottest new hops out right now. And so, taking these new hops, creating these flavor profiles and putting them in relevant beer styles.
Yeah, great. And we have some beers that we're trying right now.
Yes.
So maybe let's talk about, we got 3 beers. So you have the floor.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so we started with 4.
Oh. Yeah, it's true. That's true.
It was the Pilsner. So, the Pilsner is very traditional. It's a German style lager. So all the ingredients actually we bring from Germany to make it a true German style Pilsner. Very straw-like, crisp, light, clean. It's a beautiful beer and it's a consistent beer. I call it the working beer because, you know, that's the one that you throw back real quick and then continue on your day. And it doesn't like mess you up or anything. You know, you keep a steady level and it's consistent every single time. You're going to get the same quality product. So people love our Pilsner. It's probably one of the most popular beers that we have. But this is a mixed 4-pack that I put together for you guys. So consists of Pilsner, North Bay Hazy IPA, Hopageddon IPA, which is an Imperial IPA, and Bonfire, which is an Imperial Porter. We're doing a virtual tasting on February 27th, where we're selling like a package. The package will consist of these 4 beers, a keychain, a sticker, a letter from everybody here, you know, signed, and thanks so much for your support. And then on the 27th, we'll do a Meet the Brewer virtual tasting event where Stein and our head brewer, Julian Nelson, will be just talking about the beer, give an opportunity for customers to ask questions and them to answer it. So trying to bring Napa Smith Brewery to the home, you know, because COVID has made it a little bit tough. In the past, we would do Meet the Brewer events, have really big beer dinners and pair food with the beer. So this is just our way of trying to get in your homes.
Yeah. That's really cool. Yeah. So what's your favorite beer?
Oh man, they're like my kids, you know, I spend so much time with all of them. Yeah. It's really hard to pick a favorite because I'm a big believer in time and place. And I, like I said, my background is from Napa Valley. I drank a whole lot of wine before I started drinking beer. And wine is obviously pairing, and you could try a wine and have you could eat a burrito and drink a red wine and, but then you have like this nice, beautiful, hearty filet mignon and mashed potatoes, and then you try that same red wine. It's a totally different experience. Beer, really, especially now with the craft beer movement, it's the exact same. I drink a lot of Pilsner during the day. When I'm on a mission, I drink Hopageddon IPA. When I'm cooking, I tend to drink and use amber ale. There's a time and place for all these different beers, and especially weather. Yeah. Today's a foggy day, so I probably should have whipped out some amber ale because that is fantastic on a day like today. But yeah, I think honestly my favorite of all time, it's probably either the Mosaic or the North Bay Hazy IPA. Those tend to be, those are also our newest beers. So that could also be what it is, because I spent a lot of time with all these beers. Yeah. So anytime I get a new kid, I'm like, hey, let me try you. Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome. Great. So let's talk a little bit about the art here, because it's absolutely beautiful. And you had mentioned that you were doing all the painting yourself. So maybe talk about your background with art. And
okay, cool. Yeah. So first off, these designs, maybe with the exception of the top of the tap list, these designs were all inspired by other artists who designed our can labels. So I have taken a little bit of artistic liberty and switched them up a little bit to make them fit on the walls, kind of draw your eye to a certain area. For example, the one over by the refrigerator is a price list. So we kind of took the Bonfire label and we merged it with the Hazy IPA can. But having the flashlight shine to the prices, having the bonfire, which the fire in the bonfire, I don't know if you see the can, but the artist, he's a Luna Franco art on Instagram. He actually had to design a whole new brush to get that fire looking like that. And it was really cool because while I was painting it, I could, a lot of the brewers who have a relationship with the artist were like, oh man, he was struggling to get that. And he finally figured out by creating a new brush. And it's so funny because it was a painting brush. And here I am just painting it on the wall, and trying to capture what he's representing on our can. The Hopageddon up here, there's no volcano in the Hopageddon, but there's a bunch of flying hops around here, so I thought that'd be fun. Yeah. And the top of the tap list, that's an ode to the California lager, Pilsner, and Golden Gate.
And those are your 3 standbys.
Those are our 3 cans that are here all the time, no matter what. You know, they're solid. You can always rely on us to have those. And then the flight boards, those are my favorite, because those are not often represented by a can label because we don't always have everything in cans. So that's just a lot of opportunity for me to just freestyle and do my thing. But I've only been painting really for like 4 years now. It manifests out of a kind of crazy time in my life, and I just found an old box of acrylics and a couple of canvases and just started going ham. And now awesome. We moved to a spot in Vallejo, my wife and I. She's actually the Mare Island food and beverage manager.
Cool.
So we're trying to create a monopoly on the beer.
Yeah, sweet.
It works out great because, you know, I'm like, hey, you should go to Mare Island. You know, she's like, you should go to Napa Smith. And, you know, and try to build. Beer tourism is good for everybody. So but we have a house and there's a basement, and so I've created like a little art creation area and got a whole bunch of Napa Smith memorabilia hung up on the walls. So I have a lot of paintings for Napa Smith. They're actually in my office, but those are all just like freestyle fun stuff. But yeah, so I mean, with COVID, I've had a lot of time to do those type of things. In the past, you know, we're open 12 to 10, so it's a long shift, 12 to 10. So if I came in 3 hours before 12, well, now I'm staying, 13 hours. So it was hard to get that stuff done, but our hours have sort of changed. We're 3 to 8 now. Especially having to be outside all the time. You don't want it to get too cold, and you don't want to just pay somebody to not have like somebody come through. So 3 to 8 is like the sweet spot. So from, 10 to 3, I'm usually in here painting or figuring out the autoclore situation, the Cintas and all the other stuff, the ordering especially.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great segue. Maybe you could talk about your responsibilities here, what it entails to do your job.
So I'm the hospitality manager, so anything taproom is me. But like I said, I've been here for like 7 years, so I tend to pick up a lot of responsibilities as well, like running orders, deliveries. I clean the draft lines. I know the in and outs in terms of like making beer. I've never made beer, let's make that clear, but I could tell you how to do it. I give the tours. I run the website, I run the online store, I do the Instagram, I do the Facebook, any sort of ordering, any sort of scheduling, I run the staff, and I do it. I do a ton of stuff. But it's really awesome. Napa Smith is this super family ran business. So we're owned by a company out of Nashville, Tennessee. The owner is Robert Littman, and he's a pioneer in terms of the beverage industry. So his family stems from whiskey merchants way back in the day, and they actually have a lot to do with Jack Daniel's success, because Hat Motlow and Harry Littman were best friends, and when Hat Motlow was going under because of prohibition and they opened back up, he needed a loan. Harry Littman ended up giving him that loan, and then they maintained friendship, and the Littman brand became like the #1 carrier of Jack Daniel's in the South, and literally has #1 license for any liquor license in the South. And so, to come from and to be supported by a company and a family, especially one man, not a bunch of investors, to understand the importance of family ran, family owned, it's created a dynamic here where they really take care of us. And if once you're in, you're in. Yeah. And, unfortunately, like I said, with COVID, we've seen a lot of struggles. We normally have about 16 people running around here. And right now we have about 7 or 8, including 4 bartenders and myself, and then sales, brewers, and then Mike Forte at the helm, the general manager. But, everyone is very well taken care of. And we ended up furloughing some bartenders, but keeping them on so they can maintain benefits and not have to worry about healthcare and all that other stuff. But it's super important, I guess, that I portray that, we are family owned, and they allow us to all grow into these positions. So a lot of us have come to Napa Smith Brewery, especially me, especially Mike Forte. We don't necessarily have this beer background, but by surrounding us with these people that understand beer and can teach about beer, and us wanting to learn, it's like, if we want to learn, they're willing to teach us, and so, 5 years goes by, 6 years go by, 7 years go by. Next thing you know, I'm back there with a wrench, fixing the gas lines, and just being super helpful to each other and teaching the bartenders more skills and understanding the back of house, especially. That was one thing. I've always been front of the house, but, in terms of being in charge of money in, money out, and really seeing the ins and outs financially. And they've taught me so much, and they've really rounded out my career as a hospitality manager. So it makes me confident, because in the event that I ever had to go anywhere, I have this amazing resume now. Now I don't want to go anywhere. Yeah. I want to stay forever. Yeah, so,
yeah. So you mentioned that you live in Vallejo.
Yes.
So what does this business mean to you in the greater scheme of Vallejo's kind of food, beverage, and culture?
So Vallejo, my mom is from Napa. My dad actually grew up in Vallejo. They had me super young, they had me in high school, and my dad lived in Vallejo and my mom lived in Napa. So I would go back and forth between the two. I went to school in Napa, so most of my friends in my life was there, but I played a lot of basketball. Basketball had, they had the hoopers in Vallejo. So I ended up coming back and forth a lot. And what I definitely enjoy both cities for different reasons. And I think with Vallejo, there's this beautiful, diverse community that finds a way to come together. And we are a watering hole, essentially, right? And so, you go to the jungle and every animal goes to the watering hole and they're not biting each other's head off because they need water. So it's important to maintain that culture and dynamic here, that when you come here, you fit in no matter who you are, any walks of life, and that we make you feel comfortable. And that's a lot of the reason, too, why we pick the art, the decor, the different elements of furniture, and, trying to make everybody feel comfortable. And so if you do live in Napa, but you know about our brand, you can come out here. And if you live in Vallejo, we're here, making beer, labeling it brewed and bottled in Vallejo, California, and making this a hotspot in terms of tourism. So we like to think that we are at the tip of the iceberg, in Vallejo especially, because I've only seen Vallejo continue to grow, and it's only going to get better. And if we could just maintain that and just continue to grow with them, we would hope that eventually, we get 10 years down the line and people are like, oh, they came first, they saw it and they took advantage of that opportunity, and they stuck with us the whole entire time, especially during COVID. It's brought COVID has been a really interesting beast, because especially this year with the civil unrest, with the elections, all these different elements that are out there, and trying to maintain this cool vibe in here, no matter who you are and where you come from. And so it's been tough because, some people don't always believe in masks, and some people really believe in masks, and we're trying to maintain order and make sure everyone's across the board feels comfortable. And so it's finding this interesting way of an equilibrium, right? And you come here, you're comfortable, you're safe, we're going to keep you safe. I've had a customer, lose her wallet at the tap room. She left it on the table. I've had a customer lose her phone, and she's losing it. She's like, somebody stole it. And I'm like, no, things don't get stolen at Napa Smith Brewery. I promise you. We always have bartenders. We always have people running around. We see things, we pick it up, we put it in the lost and found, and total meltdowns. And at the end of the night, it's like, oh, it's in the lost and found. A bartender saw it, took care of it for you, put it in there, kept it safe. I can't tell you how many nights people call. Oh, I think I left something there. Oh, don't worry, we got it for you, keeping it safe. And I think that's the trick, though. The trick is to make sure that everybody from every walk of life feels safe when they're here. and that's what makes Vallejo special, because there is so many different, they're so diverse and so many different people in terms of like socioeconomics, race, just everything. And it's really wonderful when you see those people come together and, they agree over this, right? Like, this is what they're like, oh no, I can dig you because you're drinking my favorite beer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's been a really cool journey, and we're just excited to be a part of it.
Yeah. And do you want to get into any more specific challenges with the pandemic?
Well, so right now we're doing outdoor seating. And I think what the toughest thing with the pandemic has been is that people tend to not know what's going on. And they expect us to know what's going on. And I think one thing that I would just like to say is that we're in the same boat all together. And when we find out, we go ham, right? Like, so, and it's not like the governor calls us and says, hey, in 2 weeks, we're going to be open. it's mostly like, I watch the news every morning and they say Alameda County opened, and then I'm online doing all my research trying to figure out when Solano County is opening. And the minute that they give us any information, we rock with it when we go. We keep sanitizer stocked heavy all the time. I mean, half the time we're just back stocking, making sure we have everything we need. Our cleaning procedure, we've always prided ourselves in being super clean, but our cleaning procedure has just exploded. Like, we clean everything after every use, no matter what. We're wearing gloves, we're wearing masks. And so we're just trying to do everything in our power to keep everyone as safe as possible, because it would really break our heart as a whole if somebody came here, got sick, because we were reckless or lazy. So we're just doing our best to maintain, and picking things up as we go, right? So I had never spent a lot of time outside, at 8:00 at night in Vallejo, like, in terms of like outdoor seating, because we've always had this huge indoor space. We never needed outdoor seating. And then all of a sudden it's 8:00 and everyone's sitting outside, and I'm like, it's freezing out here. It's so cold. So now we're like, okay, well, we need heaters, and now we need the propane to run the heaters. And well, how long does a propane heater last? Well, I don't know. We'll figure it out. Keep Allied on deck so we can get our heater propane. And so it's just been a lot of trial and error. And I hope that people understand that we're doing our best and we're here for the community. We are going to be open as long as we possibly can be open, and we will continue to accommodate and make sure that everyone is safe and welcomed.
Great.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So if you're not here, what can we find you doing? Painting?
I have a beautiful 4-year-old son. He looks just like his mommy, Sudana, at Mare Island. And he is full of life. So a lot of times if I'm not here, I'm actually here with him, because we like to run around the brewery. He's so curious. And when I'm not here, I'll maybe be at Mare Island Brewery, because they're on the beautiful waterfront. And so it's a perfect place for us to take the scooter, the skateboard, fly a kite. They got the big green out there. And then, yes, painting, obviously, but and cleaning a lot, because my wife likes it when I clean.
So we have this saying here, Vallejo helping Vallejo. Mm-hmm. And can you kind of talk about some of the ways you guys work with other businesses in the community and kind of prop each other up?
Yes. So anytime somebody comes in and asks, well, what food should I get? Right? We always send them to a Vallejo restaurant, right? And not like a, no shade against like big franchises or, huge corporations, but I really try to encourage, pho number 1 right down the street, Bud's Burgers, staple, Napoli's Pizza, staple. And then especially when new restaurants come into town, we like to, put their flyers out. Like, we have this cork board over here. And in the past, it was full, and people would come up and they knew that, hey, here's announcements. This is what's going on in Vallejo. And so I try to be as connected as possible, especially with restaurant owners here. Nicole at Provisions. There's a lot of pop-ups too. So I tend to walk the farmer's market, because you can find a lot of just really great people from Vallejo, making a quality product. The salsa chick, is somebody that we get our salsa from. And she makes an amazing product, and she's a killer person. Like, she's just so cool. And she's connected me to people like Flavor Train. He's a big barbecue guy. So we've done a beer dinner with him. There's this woman named Jan who does like amazing salami. So I'm actually in the process of working out a charcuterie plate with her, like prepackaged, trying to find ways to bring their food in here, because we don't actually have a kitchen. So it gets tough, right? We need to have kind of these prepackaged items, but we also want to give you a quality prepackaged item. We don't just want to go to Walmart, buy, stacks and stacks of Lunchables and throw them in the fridge. We're trying to give you a taste of Vallejo when you're here. We tend to donate a ton. Vallejo Chamber of Commerce hits us up constantly when it comes to, hey, we're doing a basket for this, we're doing a fundraiser for that. We've done a fundraiser for a couple different scholarships in Vallejo, just like random people that run these scholarships for, people, women especially, that are trying to get into college, become lawyers, do all these different things. And they're like, hey, we need a basket. I'm like, I got you, let's throw a hat together. Let's throw this. And the schools around here, especially when the not for the kids, obviously, but when the parents are doing fundraisers and especially doing like big galas and stuff. So we try to put ourselves in places where people see us, but more importantly, in places where people are going to get excited about our product and donate to that cause. So I really do believe that we've made it a point to immerse ourselves in Vallejo. Obviously get exposure for our brand, but also allow these smaller companies to capitalize on our brand, and to know that we're there for them when they really need us.
Awesome. So do you have any closing thoughts just before we...
Closing thoughts. Well, I really appreciate Visit Vallejo. They always have our back, especially Manny, the whiz kid. Yeah. And it's just fun because I think there's a lot of people in certain places in Vallejo, like Manny, like me, like Sudana, and we're all really young and we're really involved, and we like to go to these places. We like to support these places. And I think it's important to remember that, that this generation especially is a cause for that push to be so accepting, to like really take care of your community and make this a place for all of our kids, to grow up and evolve and become spectacular individuals.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much for listening to the Visit Vallejo podcast.